Hi, it's Matt here for Newsshooter.com at IBC 2019. I'm at the Canon booth. Now, the C500 Mark II, you just launched it just prior to IBC. What's the reaction been generally?
Oh, fantastic reaction. I mean, it's a brand new camera, modular. So it gives everything from our Cinema EOS range, but all the opportunities to be configured in any way for shooters of all styles. So straight away, the mount at the front we can change, we can swap out, user operator can do that. The main little body can be mounted on a drone, for example. It's nice and lightweight. It's 100 grams lighter than the old C500 and smaller in size. And then there's configurable backs that can be rigged up as you like. So it's all there. 5.9K raw recording internally, and that's straight out the box. So nothing special, nothing extra you need. It's great.
So in terms of the development of the camera, how long has this been going on with, has Canon been developing this camera for?
It's a great question. I mean, really, over years, these sort of cameras don't just appear. So over years and years, they've been looking at what to do. So part of the roadmap has always been, a year ago, we launched C700 FF, a full-frame camera, but at a sort of a bit of a higher price point. Now this, same sort of sensor, down almost half the price, around the 15,000 mark, full-frame sensor, but with all these extra bits and pieces as well. So it's, still gives the option of full RAW. This is a Cinema Raw Lite internal. So it's a lighter option, but really bringing it down to make full frame more affordable in the industry.
And what's sort of the target audience for the use of this camera, and what's its sort of main competition according to Canon?
Well, I mean, target use is, again, anyone that wants to try out full frame. So obviously we've had things like the C500 Mark II for many, many years, and that's a very well-established camera, Super 35 size though. Full frame then gives more creative design. Combine it with, as we've got rigged up here, the Samiri Primes, for example. Again, Canon's kind of positioning itself to give more opportunity to those that want to be more creative. And that's the sort of key. Now, whether that is at the, high up the range as a sort of a B cam used on a main big shoot, or just as the main camera used on a sort of an indie film or something. So it's there for everyone.
And was it a conscious decision to sort of give it the feature set that it has and place it at that sort of price point? Because this is probably the first time in a long time that Canon's been fairly aggressive in terms of what specifications they put in a camera at a particular price point.
Yes, absolutely. So this sits obviously clearly a little bit above C300 Mark II, C500 Mark II now. So the naming we're changing from the old C500, and then clearly it's right in between our C700 top of the range product. So it's in there in the middle with full frame capability. So anything now above the 300 Mark II offers that. Well, we have the C700F as well, and this is now just bringing a lot more, as I said, at that price point into the game.
Is there some sort of like firmware roadmap going forward? Are they going to be making updates to this camera over time?
There's always firmware updates that Canon produces and comes out, and they're always free, usually, for these kind of cameras. I don't think we've ever charged on a Cinema EOS camera firmware update. There's not such a roadmap where I can say, in 6 months' time something will come. Straight out of the box, though, you've got your main codec, say Cinema Raw Lite 5.9K or XF AVC. So from 2K, 4K, 6K, it's all in there, or 5.9K to be pedantic, but it's all there straight away. So there isn't so much that's waiting down the line as such. Everything's pretty much ready in there. Firmware, though, quite often, so other products, as you know from camera side of things, EOS R, for example, over the last year, almost launched a year ago, constantly we're giving out new firmware updates, which is improving user operability. So better eye tracking, better focus systems and stuff. So kind of Canon believes that, you invest in a hardware and you can keep going with that. Much the same with this. This is modular build now. So the backs, the mounts, take a rental house. If you buy into this system, someone walks in, I want to configure for a PL mount on the front or an EF Cine Zoom, that's what you've got. They can quickly swap it out. They can configure it up for a system with a big V-mount lock battery on the back, or it can just be a small lightweight handheld camcorder rigged up something like this.
Now, speaking of modularity, you've got a chance to actually shoot on this camera. So I take it, normally your work involves a lot of drones, a lot of vehicle tracking. So how did you find the modularity of this camera?
Personally, I loved it because, what we could do was, instead of having 2 or 3 cameras, we just went with the one camera. So the body's only 1.7 kilos. We put it on a Russian arm, had it hanging on a Ronin 2. We left it with a longer extension on the back. That way we could access all the ports, whatever we needed to do. But then we wanted to strip it down for drone. Off we went, stripped it down, bang, in it went. And then if I wanted to go handheld, you can handheld this thing without a problem. So, you put on the grip, away you go, shoot in the back of the car, front of the car, whatever we wanted to do with it. So and I'll put the analogy back on something else we talked about earlier, which is back in the film days, you picked a body and you configured that body or got the right body for each shot. So if you wanted a tiny camera to go in the corner, you got that. If you were shooting the main actors, you used something bigger. But the one thing in it that was always consistent was the film stock. So now what we've almost got is like, back to the film days, we've got a reconfigurable camera and you've always got a consistent image because you're using the same body. So it sort of worked like that, and that's what I really enjoyed about it.
And speaking of image quality, what were your thoughts on after using the camera and seeing the vision?
Because it's got the 700 full-frame DNA in it, I knew the image was going to be good because that, to me, to date, has had the best image out of any of them. This is tweaked a little bit more, and the image quality out of it, I've just shown you something on the screen, and the image quality on it is pretty stunning. We were shooting cars, tracking with Russian arms, and we shot right down into twilight, and it's clean, crisp, using some mirror lenses. It's stunning. It's jumping off the screen. It's funny, at the monitor that we've got it running on here, we don't actually have it saying C500 Mark II because the shots are still embargoed because it's a Jaguar shoot, so we're just playing around with grades. But I'm actually watching people double take and step back to have a look at what's up on the screen. So that for me speaks for itself.
Now, when are people going to be able to see that vision that you actually shot with the C500 Mark II?
So the editing will start next week. I think it's the 10th of October. We're going to release the commercial, so you'll be able to see everything then.
Thanks very much.
Cool, no worries. Thanks, Matt.